Roger Waters recently performed in Montreal, and during his time in the city, he spoke at an anti-Israel event called Standing Up for Student Solidarity with Palestine, which was an online event co-sponsored by the suspended McGill University student group, Solidarity for Palestinian Human Rights McGill, SPHR. It was also endorsed by Sandy Dune, a Canadian not-for-profit with alleged ties to the PFLP terror group. Rogers attended this event in support of SPHR, which was suspended by the McGill student government for 105 days after they mocked and allegedly harassed McGill's Student Society of McGill University for refusing to ratify a new anti-Israel policy. Roger Waters, an outspoken anti-Israel and BDS supporter, then took center stage, and here are some of the baseless and hateful allegations he made.
I decided to cancel my gig in Tel Aviv. It was in Haikon Stadium, which, as I'm sure you all know, is built on Palestinian dead people. The young people here, teenagers in Jenin, were here during the Israeli invasion and occupation and massacre of 2002. And he said they're now teenagers. They've discovered a new way of ending their lives. They commit suicide by walking towards a checkpoint with a pair of scissors or a knife in their hand. And then the Israelis oblige them by shooting them dead on the spot. I'm glad you mentioned the words Benai and Brith, because I remember those arseholes from the last time I was in Canada, and they would be outside the gigs demonstrating and try and get people to not come to my shows and to join them in the belief that I'm an anti-Semite and that I'm this and that and blah, blah, blah. I pity them. I pity them now because they are clinging to the last shreds of any attachment to their fascist belief in Jewish supremacy in the Holy Land, which is weird given the whole thing of the Holocaust and what happened in the 40s and so on and so forth. It does bear, and I know you're not supposed to say this, it's hugely politically incorrect to draw comparisons between the Holocaust and what's going on with the Palestinian stuff. So I won't do it because I don't want to get my hands slapped. Stop it. And the platform upon which B'nai B'rith and the settler colonialist Zionist movement of the Israeli government stands is becoming, how they manage to stand on it, they must have to stand on tiptoe to find a space on that platform, because the platform has diminished until it's almost disappeared, and it's going to disappear. It will no longer be there, in spite of the actions of rich donors to McGill University putting pressure on the Board of Governors or whoever the governing people are and saying, you have to overturn this democratic vote that gives 70% of the students gave support to who are these people? The Palestinian people. And a couple of our donors don't like that result. So why don't we forget all about democracy and the people having a voice and all of that? Let's just shovel that to one side and overrule them. Why don't we send the students who are organizing it to prison or to a labor camp? Or so? No, you can't do that. People take notice, blah, blah. But that's what's going on, because what they're doing is insane. I thought, Israel, isn't that people in sandals going around and, farming? And of course, I was completely wrong. It's not about that at all. It was about a bunch of, Europeans back in the middle of the 19th century deciding that they were going to take over this piece of land and kick out anybody that lived there and take it over for themselves as their own little Kabul. That's what it's about. Golda Meir was very fond of saying that. And they even developed a slogan, a land without people for a people without a land. You lying piece of shit.
Waters, who has previously been accused of anti-Semitism, not only made false accusations that Israel is a settler colonial apartheid state, he also claimed that Jewish organizations are fascists who support Jewish supremacy. And then he spread the Jenin massacre blood libel. Waters also outrageously claimed that Israel is committing a Holocaust against the Palestinian people. By comparing Israelis to Nazis, Waters actively engaged in Jew hatred. He also made unsubstantiated claims that rich pro-Israel donors were putting pressure on the McGill administration and student government to not ratify this new anti-Israel policy, which insinuated that supposedly wealthy Jews were blackmailing the university which reeks of the long-standing conspiracy theory of Jews controlling the world. Roger Waters used his celebrity status to, in our view, spread hate, lies, and to propagate unsubstantiated claims against Israel and the Jewish people with zero proof of evidence. Waters concluded by saying he would only ever come back to Israel if he could play to a segregated crowd where Jews and Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza have the same rights within Israel, also known as the one-state solution.
Yes, I'd like to know what will be the minimum condition for you to go back to Israel one day, and are you optimistic that it will happen one day?
It would be the end of the occupation for all the people who live in the Holy Land to have equal political and civil rights, irrespective of their ethnicity or their nationality or anything else.
What he's really saying, though, is that he'll only ever come back when the Jewish state no longer exists. And to that we say, dear Mr. Waters, the state of Israel, the homeland of the Jewish people, is here to stay, and we decline your offer to ever come back and play in Israel again. Roger Waters, made famous from his band Pink Floyd, was given an undue platform to spread disinformation, lies, and unsubstantiated claims, which has the potential to fan the flames of hatred towards Jewish Canadians who continue to be disproportionately the victims of hate crimes in Canada. Enough is enough.